Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Don't Park on the Grass 2024, which was the first ever major that took place for Smash Ultimate, and it is finally back. Now, notably, this is definitely a lot more than a Smash Ultimate Major. A ton of events here, including Rivals of Aether 2, but we're going to be focusing on Smash today. And this is a really interesting bracket because despite being an American major, there's only 6 Americans in the top 16 seeds. It's actually fairly insane, the amount of just super top-heavy invaders that are coming down for this event. For your top 16, you got Loaf, Lonti, Base Mage, and Chase in 13th, Rare Kusu, Ouch, Luis, and Tarek in 9th. In 7th place, you're going to have Big D and Ken. 5th place is Rare Snow. 4th place is Light. 3rd place is Shootone. 2nd place is Sparrow, and projected to win the entire thing is Mia. So prior to the top 24, the bracket is split up into 4 parts, and we're going to be taking a look at all of those, starting off with our first matchup of Mia versus Fizmin. And this is actually a horrible draw for Mia to get, just considering that I think Shulk is one of, if not Game & Watch's worst matchup. You really just don't see it talked about because Shulk is such an uncommon character, but when you do run into Shulks in bracket, especially a high-level Shulk like Fizmin, this guy is no joke. Mia is going to have to be ready for this set, and honestly, it's most likely going to be Steve in this set against Shulk, even though I don't think Steve does a good against Shulk. In fact, I think Shulk also beats Steve. I do think it is a better matchup than Game & Watch Shulk, and Mia does have experience in the Shulk matchup. He should be fine, but it's just always scary to run into not only an uncommon matchup, but a matchup that is bad for both of your characters, especially your main. So Mia does his homework, should be fine there, but he is going to have to do a little bit of reading. Then you're going to have Base Mage versus MK Big Boss, and I actually think that MK Big Boss is going to take the upset here. The big win condition for Jigglypuff in every single matchup that she plays is obviously going to be her edge guarding, and that is something that you really just cannot pull off against Rob, and Rob is able to track Jigglypuff down in the air super well because of his up B. Things like Gyro and Laser are super annoying because Jigglypuff's mobility is just awful, and the matchup is just not great for Jigglypuff in my opinion. The one thing that's really good for her is her edge guarding, and you could argue that Rob edge guards Jigglypuff better than Jigglypuff edge guards Rob. So I'm going to say that you should have MK Big Boss making this upset right here, but I definitely think that Mia will be MK Big Boss, and my analysis is it's Rob Game & Watch, and that matchup is tough. Our next matchup is going to be Big D and MFA. Now, I don't really know which character would succeed in that matchup because they both have similar size disjoints. They both have similar damage output. Olimar is going to be a little bit lighter, but I would also say his damage output is just slightly higher because he can actually do combos with Pikmin latched onto people as well. So it's a really weird matchup, but I would slightly give it to Big D for 2 main factors. The first one would just be that I think the Ice Climbers would be really good at killing the Pikmin almost instantly. Moves like side beat, up air, nair. You just have so many different ways that are really disjointed that are able to actually get rid of those Pikmin, which is nice. And the second reason is going to be the fact that Big D is just like cracked out of his mind at this game, and that is ultimately going to be the deciding factor for me to pick him as the winner. But I think this should be a really competitive set here. And then you're going to have Rare Kusu versus Death Spade, and this is a very competitive set depending on who Rare Kusu plays, because if Rare Kusu plays Donkey Kong, it shouldn't be very competitive. Death Spade should just win. But if Rare Kusu plays Falco, then it should be a lot more competitive. But I honestly have no idea which character this guy is going to play, because I would definitely say his DK is the better of his 2 mains, but Falco is just like a million times better than Donkey Kong as a character. But I'm going to be going with Death Spade to make the upset here. I think even if it is against the Falco, Bayonetta is good enough in that matchup, and Death Spade's been looking pretty impressive in these past couple events. I think he can pull off an upset like this, but if it's against the Donkey Kong especially, it's going to be a lot easier. So then you're going to have Big D versus Death Spade, and I do think that Big D would win that one. Ice Climbers is a pretty tough matchup for Bayonetta. They just ruin all of the very precise, minute details that you need to do with Bayonetta. Nana just kind of shows up and says, hey, none of that's going to really work anymore. Next up is going to be Light versus Seesaw, and Seesaw is going to be on the Incineroar, which is definitely a scary character to run into in bracket, especially as Fox. Even though Fox has the potential to absolutely beat up Incineroar on hit, you are a very light character that is playing in Incineroar's zone. Every engagement that Fox wants to take is an engagement that Incineroar also wants to take. So Light's going to have to play this smart, but I'm honestly not too worried for him. He looked so good in his past couple events, and the main thing that I was impressed by was honestly his combo routes and the creativity that he had with him. And on a big body character like Incineroar, I have no doubts that he's not going to be able to get this job done. So I think Light should win that, but Incineroar, always a scary character to run into in bracket. Then you're going to have Chase versus JDV, and I honestly don't have a ton of analysis to give here other than I just think Palutena does really good against Pac-Man. Just all of the little Pac-Man things that he does good in, Palutena also does good in, but like slightly better in my opinion. All the CQC stuff for Pac-Man, you have moves like back air and dash attack to stuff them out. Hydrant is no problem for Palutena to get rid of. You do have the projectile, so always always being a problem for Pac-Man. Bell's always scary. Galago's always scary. You do have a counter, though, for Palutena. She has lots of little tools to deal with all of the stuff that Pac-Man has at his disposal. And because of that, I think Chase should win that one. Then you're going to have Light versus Chase, and I would expect Light to come out on top there. He's historically pretty good versus almost every single Palutena player that he has played before. Chase has beaten him in the past, but a majority of their counters go in Light's favor, and I think this one will be the same. Next up is going to be Raru versus Lemon, and matchup-wise, I definitely favor Joker here, but I am going to be going with Raru to win this one, and it's simply just because I think Raru is going to be the better player, and that's no offense to Lemon. I think he's very good. In fact, I think he's a pretty underrated player. He's one of the best players in Canada, definitely the best Joker player in Canada, but this Raru guy is like cheating, and I haven't proven it yet, but I'm pretty sure he's cheating. The stuff that he is doing, he should not be able to get away with, and because of that, I do think that he is going to get that win over Lemon. Then you're going to have Ouch versus Tora, and this one I'm really interested, because Ouch should win this, right? Ouch should beat the Ike player, but Tora is so insanely good at this game, and she's beaten players of Ouch's caliber before. She's beaten players that are better than Ouch's caliber before. She is no joke, even though the character that she plays is definitely lackluster. I would expect Ouch to win because Ike is bad, but I expect Ouch to win because Ike is bad, not because Tora isn't good or isn't good enough to pull off the upset. Then you're going to have Raru versus Ouch, and honestly, it's kind of the exact same situation that we just had with Joker, except I don't think the matchup is as good for Wolf, but I do think that Ouch is actually good enough to get pretty close to taking out a player of Raru's level. But Raru also has really high-level experience against players like Masha, most notably players like Masha, but there's also a couple other Wolf players in Japan, Torie. Editing proof block really quickly, just wanted to add that Raru has actually never played against Atorie or Masha at a major event before, so we actually don't know how he would do against Wolf in tournament, but this is a matchup that I think he should be prepared for. He shouldn't be caught off guard here, so it isn't going to change my answer, but it should be considered that he doesn't necessarily have as much experience as I gave him credit for. I can't think of any other ones on top of my head, but there's a lot of good Wolf players in Japan. Wolf is not a character that Raru is not going to be ready for. He is going to be prepared for this matchup. Ouch should be prepared for Luigi as well, but when both players are prepared, it comes down to skill, and I think that Raru's skill is going to get him the dub here. Our next top seed is going to be Spargo, and his first opponent is probably going to be Abe, and really bad draw for Abe. For anyone who doesn't know, he plays Game & Watch. Kind of all the analysis I need to give there. Spargo plays like 4 matchups that are awful for that character, and he's also Spargo. Like, that's a lethal combination. Then you're going to have Loaf and MVD, and this one I'm actually super interested in because they are going to have a dead even record. I know you have an online results here. Well, it is still dead even without the online results, and you have MVD winning their most recent encounter and also their only recent encounter at Combo Breaker, and because of that, I am going to be giving this one to MVD, but this set should be extremely close. I think MVD and Loaf are 2 players that are both like right outside that next level up level. Like, if they can get a big win at this event, like a win over Spargo, for example, then they could start snowballing, consistently getting into these top 8s. Now, unfortunately for both of these players, I don't think the Spargo win is going to come from them at this event, and I do think MVD is more likely to win this than Loaf. Spargo just beat her. I believe he just beat her. No, he definitely just beat her at the Throne 2, and he's also beaten her prior to the Throne 2. And for Loaf, Gluttony has also not got a great record against Spargo. Sword characters aren't going to be doing great there. Also, I just think Spargo's beaten Loaf in all the recent encounters. I don't think he's played MVD recently, but he definitely has played Loaf, and he definitely won. So Spargo should be beating both of these opponents, but I'm very excited to see who wins between Loaf and MVD because I just think that's going to be a banger. Next up is going to be Ken versus Embo Z, and I'm not super confident on the intricacies of Duck Hunt versus Sonic, believe it or not, and I think there's a couple things that are decent for Duck Hunt. You got a lot of ways to actually slow Sonic down in the neutral side B, down B, neutral special. Literally all of your specials are going to be amazing for disrupting him, but I think every other aspect of the matchup I would put into Sonic's favor, easily the advantage state in Sonic's favor. The neutral, even though Sonic is being disrupted by projectiles from Duck Hunt, I would still favor Sonic, and the edge guarding is like insanely good for Sonic. That is one of the biggest weaknesses of Duck Hunt, one of the biggest strengths of Sonic, just not a great combination for Embo Z. So I do think that he is going to fall there, but it is an uncommon matchup. There is definitely a possibility that Ken could be thrown off guard. Then you're going to have Luis versus Beastly, and I think Luis is going to win this one, but I think this should be honestly a pretty competitive set. Beastly is really good, one of the more underrated players in Smash Ultimate, but I would also say that exact same thing about Luis, and I actually think he has been playing phenomenally in these past couple events, so I am going to say that he gets that win and also gets the upset over Ken. I think Palutena is pretty good against Sonic. Personally, I would say that Sonic slightly wins that matchup, but I could see it being even. You have moves like dash attack and back air, which are basically just like, hey, you cannot be in this space buttons. I am going to win this interaction. Your advantage state is pretty strong. You have the teleport recovery, so it could be a little bit awkward for Sonic to actually go for some of those edge guards. He actually has to beat you to your up B instead of beating you during the up B, which he does against a lot of characters. Spring also has way less effectiveness. So I think this is a pretty solid match for Palutena, and most importantly, Luis is just like amazing at this match. One of the best players I've ever seen against Sonic. He plays it so patiently. He spaces around it really well. And whenever Luis takes his risks, they almost always hit. And on a character like Sonic, if you can actually make your risks hit, if you throw it like 1 or 2 smash attacks a set and they both hit, you're going to be finding a ton of success. So as long as Luis has that confidence behind him, I think he's going to get that upset. Next up is going to be Shootone, and his first opponent is likely going to be Xavier. Now, I don't think that Shootone is going to be ready for the Wii Fit matchup. There's only one good Wii Fit in Japan that I know of, and that's going to be in Jelly, and there's like 3 good Wii Fits in the world that I know. 4, actually. Forgot about John Numbers, the real goat of the game. But I don't think it's going to matter that he doesn't know the Wii Fit matchup, because I just think Aegis is like a better character. It is just going to overwhelm, and I also think Shootone here is going to be the better player. No offense to Xavier. Of course, this guy's just top 10 in the world, so even if Shootone doesn't do his homework, isn't prepared, I think he should just be able to brute force this one, because Wii Fit is just such a specific character that needs to find success in these areas, and Aegis just does not care. Then you're going to have Monty in Send, and I would expect Monty to win that one. I do think that Game Watch definitely beats Ness. You are going to have the boon for Ness that Game Watch is a very light character, and you have the strongest back throw in the game, as well as a bunch of other ways to steal the stock, but you could say that about Ness as well. Really easy for Game Watch to get that edge guard and pile on the damage there, so it's a matchup where I think both characters destroy each other, but from what I've seen more recently, Monty just seems to have a better advantage state, so he should win that one. Then you're going to have Shootone versus Monty, and I just expect Shootone to win this one. It is Aegis versus Game Watch at the end of the day. Game Watch does have a win condition in that matchup, yes, absolutely, but it is a very, very hard one for him to win, because aside from edge guarding, Aegis is just favored pretty much everywhere else. And our final top 24 qualifier is going to have Snow Ludo as our first set, and you would heavily favor Snow to win this one for pretty obvious reasons. The best Mario player in the world, likely going to be playing a Mario Ditto. He should come out on top. Now, you could have the Falco coming out from Ludo, which I think Mario does decent in, and you also could have the Aegis coming out from Snow, which I think Aegis does good against Mario, so there really isn't a lot of winning here for Ludo. It's just, okay, do I play not the Ditto in a character that I'm less comfortable in a matchup that isn't amazing, or do I play the Ditto or a bad matchup against the best Mario player in the world? Like, it's just a really, really unlucky draw here for Ludo. I do think that Snow is the heavy favorite there. Then you're going to have Tarek versus Contra, and I could not for the life of me figure out how Contra, or who Contra played. I think this is the first time I've ever done that on this channel. I have no idea. I could not find whoever they played for some reason. So please, please, please tell me down below who Contra plays. But hopefully it's not a really bad matchup for Greninja, because I think Tarek is going to win that one. And then you're going to have Tarek versus Snow, and I low-key need this set to happen, because it would be a banger. I don't think this matchup is super swingy into either character's favor, and out of respect for Snow, I am going to be giving him the benefit of the doubt and say that he should be able to take this one home, but Tarek is absolutely on that level of play that he could take out a player of Snow's caliber. He could take out the best of the best in the world. I think Tarek is on that level where he realistically could fight anyone and win. He just actually has to come out on top in the dub here, and while I don't think it's going to happen versus Snow, I think it's like a 60-40 in Snow's favor. Tarek definitely has a shot. So now we are at the top 24, and our first top 8 qualifier is going to be Mia versus Big D. And I think that if this is Ice Climbers versus Game & Watch, Big D is going to come out on top. I think Ice Climbers is decent enough against Game & Watch where it's very plausible to happen. The damage output is obscenely high, definitely in Ice Climbers' favor, in my opinion, if you play the disadvantage state well enough by the Climber player. It's really important that you have good control over Nana in this matchup, because Game Watch does an amazing job at separating the Climbers with moves like up air and up B, grounded down smash. I mean, not even grounded down smash, just down smash, but you know, when it does ground, that definitely does the trick. So if Big D is very cautious about his Climber play, he should be able to keep them together and use that really solid advantage state and kill power against Game Watch to secure a dub. But unfortunately for Big D, I just think Mia's going to play Steve and win. And I know you're like, okay, well, what's the point of this discussion? For content. But I just think the Steve is going to come out from Mia, and that match for Ice Climbers is miserable. After that, you're going to have Light versus Raru. Speaking of miserable matchups, Fox versus Luigi is arguably Fox's worst matchup. If you touch Luigi's shield, you get upbeat or grabbed, both of them resulting in a death. If Luigi touches you with a Nair, up air, forward air, down tilt, anything, you're probably dead. Edge guarding, really, really tough for Fox. Moves like down tilt and down air make it impossible for him to recover. Forward air as well. The biggest problem of Luigi as a character is his recovery. Fox, not super great at edge guarding. There's just so many things about this matchup that are slightly or super heavily into Luigi's favor that I am going to be giving this one to Raru. Now, I do think that Light is very good at the Luigi matchup. Light is good at all of his bad matchups. He takes the time. He knows how to play them. He has clear counterplay. I just don't think it's going to matter versus Raru. You have to execute everything against this guy perfectly, because every single time that you mess up, every single time he gets his paws on you, you are going to explode. After that, you're going to have Spargo versus Luis, and I would expect Spargo to come out on top here simply just because you're a fundamental player versus another fundamental player. Cloud and Palu, it's basically just who is better at neutral is going to be winning that matchup. And I think the best player in the world is just going to be better at neutral in this case scenario. I think Luis should be able to make it fairly competitive though, but I think Spargo should be taking him. And then for anyone that's curious, if Luis doesn't actually end up upsetting Ken and Ken's just the normal one that makes it through, I would also expect Spargo to beat Ken just because he is so good against Sonics in the past. Even though Ken has historically done pretty well against Spargo, I think the amount of time that he's put into his Aegis and also his Roy now, it wouldn't really be an issue for him. And our final topic qualifier through the winner's side is going to be Shutone versus Snow. And I do think that Shutone is going to win this one. Interestingly, you do have Snow winning their last encounter at Umabora, but prior to that, you had a very dominant head-to-head for Shutone. And I think both Olimar and Aegis do good into Mario. I will say I think Aegis is the better choice of the two characters, but I honestly think Shutone could find success with both of them. And I do think that he is going to be coming out on top. I think it's more likely that Shutone makes adaptations from his previous set against Snow, realizes what he did wrong, than for Snow to just have this like unbreakable spirit against Shutone now to have completely downed this player and figured him out. Now, of course, Snow can also make adaptations off of their last set. I'm not saying that can't happen, but I'm going to be putting my trust in Shutone's adaptations to just be a little bit better and give him that slight edge. And y'all know the drill at this point. We don't do the loser side of the bracket just because the majority of these matchups are not going to happen. I've taken the players that are most likely to top 8, and we have given them the percentages. You're going to have the confidence here with Mia, Rare, Spargo, and Shutone. Those guys have picked the top 8 through the winner side. Then you have someone confident with Light, Ken, Snow, and Luis, and those are the guys that picked the top 8 through the loser side of the bracket. Specifically, I think you're going to have Light getting top 8 through this part of the bracket right here. If it wasn't Raru in the winner side against Light, I would have Light just moving on top 8 winner side, but because it is Raru, quite possibly the worst person in the entire world for him to run into, I think he's going to drop down. Like, genuinely, I think Light would rather have Mia in his path, maybe even Big D in his path, than Raru. This is just such a tough draw. But all these people in the loser side, I'm feeling pretty good about Light taking them out. Tarek is maybe a little bit scary, just considering he's like, Tarek is really good at this game, but I think he should be able to handle it. Then you're going to have Ken getting top 8 through this part of the bracket right here. As I said earlier, I think he's going to get upset by Luis, and he should be fine in all of these matchups up until Big D, where I still think he's going to be fine, because not only does he have Sonic at his disposal, but he also has Sephiroth at his disposal if that one doesn't end up working out. So two tough matchups there for the climbers. Should have Ken top 8 right here. I think Snow's going to get top 8 through this normal part of the bracket. I do think Ouch is the most likely opponent. Definitely a possibility for Base Mage, Beastly, and MVD, to be honest, but I would favor Snow against all of these opponents. And for the Ouch set, it's kind of the same thing I was mentioning earlier if he was ending up to play against Raru, where it's like a 60-40, just barely not in Ouch's favor, playing in those up-close personal combat situations where Ouch absolutely can win. I just don't think it's going to happen this time all round. And then finally, you're going to have Luis getting top 8 through this part of the bracket right here, replacing Ken. Now, I will say, if Chase makes it to Luis, I think that could be a little scary, because historically, Chase has been really, really good in the Ditto against Luis. But if this is Rarakusu or Deathspade, because I do think Deathspade is going to pull off the upset here, I do think that Luis should beat both of those opponents and get himself into the top 8. And some other people that I should definitely mention for top 8 are Rarakusu, Chase, Ouch, Base Mage, Tarek, Loaf, Monty, Big D, MVD, Deathspade, MK Big Boss, and Tora. There's maybe a couple people that I didn't put on this list that I could see getting into the top 8, but for the most part, I would be honestly pretty surprised if someone not in this top 20 ended up in that top 8. And honestly, I'm feeling pretty confident about my picks all getting into top 8. And this isn't something that I normally say, but I feel like the bracket is going to turn out good for me this time around. I think I picked really wise. So don't be surprised if I get at least 6 of my 8 picks in the top 8. That's the proof I promised, and I don't normally give those. And we have finally arrived at the top 8. As always, this lovely graphic was made by Memorization. His link will be down below, so be sure to check him out and sub while you're down there. But our first matchup in the winner side is going to be Mia versus Raru, and this is a really bad head-to-head for Raru. I don't know the exact record off the top of my head, but I don't believe he's ever taken a set off of Mia. And not to be a pessimist, but I don't know if that's ever going to change, because this matchup is miserable for Luigi. You do have a frame 1 out, but it really doesn't matter, just because most of the time that you are actually going to be able to break a Game Watch combo, it's because you're being chained by up air. So then Game Game Watch can just react to Luigi falling to the ground with a down smash, with an up smash. It's just an absolute nightmare for the matchup. The edge guarding is also miserable. I didn't even think about that. You can't touch Game Watch's shield. I could go on and on, but all you really need to know is that B is probably going to win that one. Editing proof block. I just wanted to add that Ryu has gotten his win on Mia before. So not undefeated in there in head-to-head, but as you can see, not great. Then you're going to have Spargo versus Shuton, and I really want to see this encounter because we don't have any top-level Aegis players in America, and Spargo is going to be good at that matchup. Of course, he does have that character in his pocket, but I don't know who he's going to play because I don't think Cloud does super good against Aegis, so you could have Spargo trying the Ditto against Shuton, which I wouldn't recommend. He could go Roy, which I also wouldn't recommend, so I don't really know what Spargo's going to do here. I'm pretty sure he is just going to stick it out in the worst matchup with Cloud and just try to be the fundamentally better player, and because he is Spargo, I do think he is going to be the fundamentally better player, and it also sucks for Shuton that he literally just cannot go Olimar because picking Olimar into Cloud is just borderline suicide. So it is going to be absolutely Shuton on the Aegis, but I'm not sure which character Spargo is going to play. I'm just saying that his sortie fundamentals should be able to get him over the board regardless. On to our losers 8, starting off with Light versus Ken, and I think this is one of the most interesting matchups I've talked about in honestly quite some time because Fox is one of, if not the best character in the game against Sonic, and I think Light is one of the best players in the world against Sonic. But Ken has beaten Light in their last 2 encounters, including the only recent one, which took place at Supernova. Now, it does manage to go to Game 5, so Light still does keep it competitive, but the point still stands that the guy who's supposed to beat Sonic hasn't been beating Sonic recently. It's the same thing with Sonics as well. He's beaten Sonics in some of the recent encounters, but more often than not, Sonics is coming out on top. And I'm not really sure if this is more of a Light slowing down in the Sonic matchup, not putting as much time into it because he's really good at that matchup, not a super common character relative to some of the other ones he's worrying about, or if it's the Sonic players just leveling up rapidly against Fox. And I think that's the more likely of the two. But with all of that being said, I am still going to be giving the benefit of the doubt here to Light, and that's only because of how well he was playing last weekend. If I didn't watch how good he was playing at I completely forgot the last event that just happened, the Throne 2. I don't know how I could forget that one. That was a banger. But if I didn't watch that event, I would have Ken winning this one. But because Light was playing so well there, I think he is going to be able to keep his composure, to play the specific game plan that he needs to play against Sonic because it's a very unorthodox character. The neutral does not operate the same as any other character in this game. So in order for Light to win this, he's going to need to be in a different mindset, but I think he's going to be able to handle it. He's done it a lot before. He can do it again. Then you're going to have Luis versus Snow, our run back from Supernova, and don't let Japan hear me say this, but Luis got robbed at that event. He got absolutely robbed, and it wasn't even by Snow. It was by himself. He was going for these crazy teleport cancels and amazing smash attack reads, and they were all working super successfully in those first 2 games, and then he just stopped. All the confidence goes out the window at Supernova. I don't think that's going to happen in the second set. I think Luis is amazing against Mario because of his experience against Kurama. I don't think Japan is very good against Palutena as a character. They don't got too many of them running around there aside from Jagaimo. Even though Snow wins their last encounter, I think there's a lot of things pointing towards the Luis victory here. In losers quarters, your first set's going to be Shuton versus Light, and it's almost 1000% going to be Olimar from Shuton in this matchup because he's only ever beaten Light with Olimar. And it should be noted that Shuton has a very good record against Light. It's going to be 6-2 in his favor, but you might have started to notice a little bit of a pattern here, and we here at the Proof Block channel love patterns. It's like we are in elementary school, so I am going to be having Light win that one. But for actual analysis here, I think Olimar is a bit of a struggle matchup for Fox. That damage output is super high, and especially when the Pikmin are attached, you're really easy to kill Fox as well. But you also have Olimar with a similar lightweight and Fox with a crazy damage output. So if Light is able to just maneuver around the Pikmin correctly, I think he has a good chance of winning that one. And also Lady Luck agrees with me, so he's pretty much guaranteed at that point. Then you're going to have Rare versus Luis, and I think Luis should win this. Luis should win this. Palutena does beat Luigi, in my opinion. Not a lot of Palutena players in Japan for Rare to get that good experience against, and especially for a character like Luigi where spacing is really important, I think not knowing the intricacies of Palutena is going to blow you up. So unless Rare just has a ton of experience in this matchup that I am very unaware of, I think this is going to be a definite uphill battle for him. But also, I say this like every single time about Ryu, and he always 3-0s the guy that I picked to upset him anyway, so I don't really know. So we've got our top 4, Mia versus Spargo in the winner's side, and Light versus Luis in the loser's side. Starting off with Mia versus Spargo, and you have Mia winning their last encounter, which makes this thing way more interesting than it would have been previously. Otherwise, it's just a sweep for Spargo. But with Mia winning this one, there's a whole bunch of drama involved. But as you can see, there was no Cloud in this set from Spargo. So because of that, I'm just going to say that the Cloud should win. I'm giving it like 1,000% benefit of the doubt. Now, you also have to consider there is a reason that Spargo did not try out Cloud against Mia. It's because either A, he just didn't think the Cloud was a great choice in the Game & Watch, or B, he thought the Aegis was a really good choice into Game & Watch. So in order for Spargo to make a change here, he's either going to have to lose faith in his Aegis, which is not what we want, or preferably find faith in his Cloud, find something that he thinks is important in this Game & Watch matchup. And I would be pretty shocked if he didn't at least try out the Cloud, but even if he doesn't try out the Cloud, even if he just goes straight back at it with the Aegis, I think that Spargo is going to be able to make the adaptations that he needs in order to be successful in that set. It is still a matchup where he is favored, it is still a matchup where he has the experience favor, and it is still a head-to-head where he normally comes out on top. In the loser side then, you're going to have Light versus Luis, and this is a super dominant head-to-head versus Light. I don't believe he's actually ever lost to Luis, one of the best players in the world against Palutena, and honestly just a pretty tough opponent for Luis to run into. In the losers finals, you're going to have Light versus Mia, and these are definitely tough matchups for Fox. Game & Watch and Steve are arguably two of Fox's worst matchups. Honestly, a bit of a terrible Fox bracket in general for Light here, but Mia is not a bad pick for Light. In fact, Mia is a great pick for Light. Of their last 5 encounters, he has come out on top 4 times, and they've played 8 times total. Mia won their first 3 sets, and since then, it has been Light's on all time for Light. He has been so successful in this head-to-head. So despite the matchup being bad, I think he is going to come out on top here. And in the grand finals, we get our run back of the throne to Spargo versus Light. And I think it is going to unfold the exact same way with Spargo on top. And with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the sport. It's been absolutely unreal as of late. If there's anything I left out, got wrong, or if you just want to say hi, leave a comment down below. Be sure to sub while you're down there. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.